Hi, welcome to Storytime. I'm Dr. Jennifer Bird. I'm a biblical scholar, and I care very much about what people do with what they find in the Bible. So, because of that, I'm having conversations with other biblical scholars and people who care about engaging this collection of texts critically and with people's well-being in mind. So that's the short answer, the short version of what I'm up to here. So I'm delighted to have some folks here with us live today. I appreciate that. Welcome. And for those watching later, I appreciate you all as well. If you do find that you're enjoying the work I do, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel or like a video or maybe share a video. I'm really grateful, as you could see from the banner, really grateful to the people who support me financially. And now there's a membership on my channel. So if you're interested in joining those folks, that would be a great way to do it. But regardless, thank you. Thanks for being here. It's fun to be here with you all, to have these conversations and to do some story time. So today's story time is actually with a colleague, she actually is also a Newer Testament professor, Tina Pippin. And I just realized I didn't pull all the different credentials that I have for her in the description. You all can see that. What I did pull was what she's working on currently. I actually came in contact with Tina Pippin's work when I was a graduate student, and I first knew about the contributions she made to the postmodern Bible work, the work around the postmodern Bible. There's a reader and there's a text, an edited volume related to this, bringing in theory, right? Bringing in literary theory to biblical studies work. And then I discovered her work on Revelation and was loving the voice, loving the way that she connects with the text and talks about it, engages it. And this is a very interdisciplinary kind of a woman. She for instance, right now she's teaching religion and ecology and, of course, the politics of apocalypse. She teaches human rights, so she does lots of activist work on economic justice, and she's been working on the living wage campaign on the campus where she teaches, which is Agnes Scott College. I'm always impressed when I discover or when I learn that a biblical scholar is an activist. Kind of a little tidbit about our field. It's very typical for people who are on the religious studies, more ethics or theology, for those kinds of folks to be activists. It's not as common to have a biblical scholar for various reasons. But Aaron Runyons, who was on a month or two ago, is also an activist, and this is a part of who Tina is as well. She's been an activist in a lot of different ways, formerly even with anti-nuclear groups. So it's really it's a pleasure to have someone with such a variety of interests and ways that she's engaged as a scholar with the world. So please welcome Tina Pippin to Storytime. Thanks for being here today, Tina. I appreciate
Thank you, Jennifer. I've been following your work for years, and I love it. And congratulations on your new book on marriage and the Bible. It's for now, that's an activist thing to do, and in terms of our apocalyptic times as of yesterday, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
This week is a difficult. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that very much, actually. Yeah. So, and as I prepared for today, I was like, this is a hard week. I'm having a hard time getting motivated. I don't know about, and I thought, well, I'm just going to focus in on this conversation. So, and look forward to just having getting to know you, actually. I'm not sure that you and I have ever had a conversation. Right?
Not a long one. No. No.
So yeah. Anyway, so let's. I'm sorry I didn't do the best intro because I forgot to bring in all of your credentials and all the things. But just the fact that I'm having you on here, I hope is enough, in a sense, for some people to know that I think you're an interesting person. And so, yeah. So let's dive in. You have been teaching for 35 years.
Yeah. Full time.
It's quite an impressive. Yeah, that's a lovely thing to be able to say. And the whole time at Agnes Scott College, is that?
Yes, and then in grad school, adjuncting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm very aware of the contingent life and hoping that we can do more to support contingent faculty. So
yeah, it's a challenging aspect of higher ed for sure, right? The financial piece there. So, will you tell us about who you are? Tell us about yourself a little bit. Who is this person, Tina Pippin? What parts of your background help inform why you do the combination of things you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little strange that growing up as in the Episcopal Church, very small Episcopal Church, in rural Eastern North Carolina, where you grow up in the Episcopal Church usually. Not to overgeneralize, but biblically illiterate. The Bible for us was this little piece of paper with the lectionary.
Right. One little chunk or two, right?
Yeah. And the Apocalypse, book of Revelation was kind of gauche, not nothing you really wanted to focus on, and only the heavenly throne scenes, and I don't remember it at all, actually. And what I do remember is when I was about 5 or 6, I was in one of those preschool Sunday school classes. We didn't have many of those because there weren't many kids in the church, but that I think it was the guy who owned the heating and air conditioning business in town, or whatever. Yeah. He was teaching the class, and we were doing Adam and Eve, and he said to us, "Well, just think of it as a fairy tale." And I thought, okay, that makes perfect sense to me. So I just kind of carried that. I absorbed that.
Wow. You were given that young? That's amazing.
Yeah, and it helps to be in the Episcopal Church, I think. And a little biblically illiterate. But and until you get to a Southern Baptist college and are surrounded in an Intro to New Testament class by Southern Baptists, and sitting next to a guy. I'm in the back of the room because that's where Episcopalians sit. And
right.
At Mars Hill College, now Mars Hill University.
That's right. I was trying to remember. Yes, I was like, whoa, when I saw that. I was like,
completely across the state, 8 hours from where I'm from. And pointing out to me as I'm asking questions in class that in the book of Revelation, it says you're not supposed to change a word of this, or you're going to hell. So, I was surrounded by that growing up with my friends who believed in the rapture and all of that. And I couldn't find it in the Bible, saved my life. And so, and so I think what Flannery O'Connor said, that where the South is the Christ haunted landscape. I think that's true. And here I sit in Georgia, the day after those elections, and with our legislature and Marjorie Taylor Greene as one of the main apocalyptic signs for me, that these interesting apocalyptic times we're in, and we are in a Christ-haunted landscape, but to reclaim that territory in a way. And I think O'Connor, to go back to Flannery O'Connor, really dug deep into the soul of what the South is. So I grew up in that, and knew about race and class growing up in the 60s, of course, and working in tobacco in the summers, and working near where Bishop Reverend William Barber had his church.
Okay.
We went to Yale in Goldsboro, North Carolina, where my grandmother, paternal grandmother, is from. So, all of that rural North Carolina tobacco.
Yeah.
The whole, and small farms back then. And now, of course, it's different, completely different there. But that's where William Barber caught fire and did Moral Mondays in North Carolina, and then on. And so for me, the connection, my curiosity about the Bible, because I didn't know anything about it, and people were talking about it in ways that I thought was pretty crazy. And then wanting to learn about that. So I wind up at Mars Hill, and with my first class with Dr. James L. Blevins, who was a thoroughly Bultmannian scholar. So, so the first textbook was Bultmann's Primitive Christianities in, New Testament 101. At Southern Baptist College.
Wow. That was intense.
Yeah. So that was it. It all started to come together then, right? And then that January, there was an upper class group, because Blevins wrote a book on the Book of Revelation as drama. And he saw it as a 7-act play with 7 scenes in each act. And whether it is or not, it does work dramatically, and it's fun to perform. A little frightening when you get to the Fall of Babylon.
Yeah.
And with all that very thick misogyny and violence. But I went to see the play in the school auditorium, and thought,
they actually performed it?
Yes, they performed it. And his goal in life, he was never able to get permission from the Turkish government, but his goal in life was to perform it at the Ephesian Theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in lieu of that, he had church groups do it at football stadiums, and he had the Louisville Orchestra perform because the hymns were sung in Greek.
Oh, wow. Wow, this was intense. Yeah.
Yeah. And he taught Greek with modern Greek pronunciation, which I still think is pretty reasonable, given the Greeks should know how to pronounce it, not somebody from Northern Europe. Erasmus, that is.
It is a good question. It is an interesting issue, isn't it? Yeah, the difference.
So I had my Politics of Apocalypse class sing "Holy, Holy, Holy" in Greek.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
how was that? Did you record it? Can you share?
No. It was a little rough.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got into the apocalypse, and it's yeah, and I can't get out, right? It's
still around us, or it's still present, and there's a way to engage people meaningfully.
Yeah. So, this semester, and I thought, why am I teaching that course this term, right? Because the first time I ever taught it, it's like it's almost got not a curse, but something that creates around it. And I know there are always apocalyptic moments, personal to societal, right?
Right.
The first time I taught it in April was the raid on the Branch Davidians in Waco.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we had to clear the decks to, and that was before all the literature on it. Yeah. So, yeah, I was almost afraid to teach it again after that.
Gonna say.
So.
Yeah. What else? What are you ushering in by bringing this course together? What is it? So I am curious about the class, the Politics of Apocalypse. What kinds of things, what kinds of ways do you engage the students with that through that lens?
Well, we pretty much engage each other because it's a film studies class, and also and they just presented on their films, which, if you have 18 presentations over 2 days in a row, it's
intense.
It is intense, but such creative material. And
Nice.
they do an apocalypse watch, and they bring in music, film, anime, material culture. There's a lot of apocalypse out there. So, we have, you can go from some punk band, doom rock band, to Janelle Monáe's dance apocalypse, to REM. I mean, there's so much out there, you can't get to it all in a semester. But to tap into what their interests are. And we're in the part of the semester where we're we're reading things like Robert J. Lifton and Arundhati Roy, and we started with the biblical, early, Hebrew Bible, apocryphal, pseudepigraphal, and then the Apocalypse of John, and then we're moving into more cultural things. And we'll end, and this is because I'd used it before, and then because of the lawyer in the play, Roy Cohn, who was Trump's lawyer, and this is Angels in America.
Oh, yes.
And the ongoing HIV AIDS apocalypse. I'm using the HBO film and the play. They read the play. So
nice. I'm a big fan of Angels in America.
And then the Roy Cohn character.
Yes.
To bring it to current issues. But we also watched Till Kingdom Come, that PBS I don't think ever showed because of an editing glitch on one of the speeches. However, that's another story. However, it's about a church in Eastern Kentucky that's connected it's a Christian Zionist church. They have a school, and it's a nicely done film about one small rural community in Kentucky. This church, very fundamentalist church, good people, and their connection with Israel and the International Association of Christians and Jews. And the connection with Hollywood and just the politics of it. There's a great segment on when Trump moves the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and who is at the ceremony. John Hagee, all these Bible prophecy people who, every time there's a sneeze in the Middle East, it's Armageddon.
Right.
And how much they desire Armageddon. And so we study the Pat Robertson, the Jerry Falwell, we have to have nuclear weapons because God needs them for Armageddon, to start the apocalypse. God's got God's finger on the button. And so it's, we're looking at all of that, and especially now, and this is work that so many good people are doing, like Greg Cary and, Brad Onishi. Yes, thank you. And, there's so much out there. It's kind of overwhelming. Christian nationalism and Christian Zionism, because so that students are prepared for, what so many people, the way they voted was in connection with that. And so we did this whole thing on the rapture a few weeks back. And, today I said, I kind of wish the rapture was real. All of them.
Get them out of here.
And we start afresh. The rest of it.
Right.
The remnant.
The remnant. That's awesome.
So.
That's good.
I just can't get away from the apocalypse.
Right. It keeps.
I keep thinking, okay, I'm done, and then, something else. There's a new film. There's
a new wave. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna redirect a little bit here, just because to get some more juicy stuff out of you. So you gave us a very brief, you kind of gave us a brushstroke of, how you got into doing specifically Revelation. But I also want to talk a little bit more about, your own voice as a biblical scholar. And that I'd love to talk a little bit about, you shared two big influences. So for people watching or listening, one of the things I like to ask people when they come on is, who are some of the influences for you? And it can be, whether it's cultural or theoretical, and you've chosen a couple of really powerful examples that were formative for you. So I'd like to use them to talk a little bit about, I'll go ahead and share. Let's talk about, I guess, Jameson first, probably, because of the, nope, that's not the one I want. Did I close it? Oh dear. I think I might have closed the wrong one. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Use Jameson to talk about, about, your own voice as a biblical scholar. So it's quite likely that a lot of people here who are watching or with us now or watching later aren't going to be familiar with Frederick Jameson and his work. So can you share a little bit about him and then why his work has been important to you?
Yeah. I first came across Jameson when I was working on my dissertation with James Blevins, who moved from Mars Hill to Southern Baptist Theological Seminary before the fall. And before the fall, it was the place you could do the most creative biblical scholarship.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious?
I did Marxist literary theory, which is Jameson.
At Southern Baptist?
Oh, yeah. And, they had a strong tradition. One of the ethics professors brought a Martin Luther King Jr. in the early 60s. it's social justice. This is Little B Baptist, as it's often called. Now called the Alliance of Baptists in the split. And some cooperative, but I'm not Baptist. I'm commenting out as an outsider. But, I have 3 degrees from Southern Baptist institutions. I like to tell my fundamentalist students.
Right. Gives you some cred for them.
And they just look at me like they can't. How
is that possible? Yeah.
So before the fall, so it's BF. So BF can be before the fundamentalist or before the whatever the F word you want to use. And I was in graduate school with the current president, he who shall not be named, and which is very odd. I was in a graduate seminar on theology with Frank Tupper, who was an amazing theologian. He went to Wake Forest Divinity School when the takeover occurred, when the fundamentalists took over Southern. And that was after I left. And we were doing, it was a theology seminar on reconciliation and solidarity. And we were reading Moltmann and Sally McFaig. We were reading a lot of feminist theology, African-American theology that was there at the time. And that he who shall not be named was in there reading that. He was a moderate.
Really?
Yes. And then when there was the takeover, and Glenn Henson, the church history professor, who is just an amazing person, said, this takeover is not about God. It's about power and money. And so that sticks with me every time I see like the United Methodist Church split with the Global Methodist or whatever. And I think that holds true. But to get back to Jameson.
Okay. Yep.
Well, see, I was doing Marxist literary theory with Blevins, liberation theology kind of, because I did Christian social ethics with Glenn Stassen, who's an anti-death penalty, anti-nuclear activist. That's social justice.
Nice.
And to do ethics and New Testament, I had been told by some other graduate schools I applied to. One in particular, and I wish I still had this letter, Karen Torgeson, who taught at Claremont, told me I could have kept it. That said, young lady, I want you to know that if you do New Testament studies, you do not do Christian social ethics. So So I had,
that is just unbelievable.
yeah, I have more, but anyway, I'll
Sure.
just give you that tidbit, and that serves as rocket fuel, right?
Right?
You
Good. I'm glad it did.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I was doing both, which I don't recommend at exam time, doctoral exam time.
Yeah, that made a heavy load. Yeah.
Yeah, and then others were doing narratology with Alan Culpepper.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And all kinds of incredible ethical things with the ethics professors, and one of my New Testament colleagues was doing process readings in New Testament.
Nice.
I mean,
wow. That long ago. Like that's great. It's impressive.
That long ago. Thank you.
You know what I mean? People are still not sure what process theology is.
Yeah, it was in the 80s. So
okay, sorry, that's not that long ago. But it kind of is in terms of the way it goes. I'm sorry.
That's right. And it was much more because I went to Candler School of Theology, and that was wonderful. But it was far more open and experimental.
It's incredible.
Southern, because of the history of Baptists from the Reformation.
Right.
Radical social justice stuff that gets forgotten due to the current insanity.
The last few years.
Yeah. And misogyny. So Jameson, I discovered Jameson doing, literary readings, and it got me into, Marxism and political readings of text. So, the major Revelation scholar at the time was Elizabeth Schussler Fiorenza, who graciously agreed to be an outside reader of the dissertation. Nice. Yeah, it was wonderful. And then you're having a book session at SBL. Congratulations. I had one when my first book came out, and that wasn't my dissertation. I never published it. I moved on. But that was when she read all 11 pages of her critique of how I was wrong, which was wonderful. I mean, because I'm teaching at Agnes Scott College, and here is Harvard responded to my book. I thought it was wonderful.
I'm sure.
And we always hug at meetings, and
yes, I love. Yes,
but she does not like. She never has liked what I said, and she's in good company.
Was she? So wait, just to clarify.
Yeah.
The book, the book that you're referring to,
Death and Desire.
So Death and Desire. Okay. Well, and I know that there's the one. I mean, it's kind of a thing, right? That the two of you disagree on how to read the Whore of Babylon.
Oh, yeah,
and whether or not that is misogynist.
The female characters. Yeah,
it's the one thing about Elizabeth's work I just cannot wrap my head around. I'm like, I love everything about her except for that.
I do too. I love her work. Yeah, and I don't think I'm not that beholden to being right.
Right.
There are multiple readings. Exactly. It depends on your context, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we just used Ernesto's Cardinal poem in my class, Apocalypse.
Okay.
And, his disagreement with Daniel Berrigan over the apocalypse, right? Well, he's right, because Berrigan's he calls him out for being in D.C. in his nice, comfortable apartment when Cardinals in Solentiname being attacked by the Contras that are funded by, the U.S. So, can I fault Alan Bozak for his, South African reading that is, has been criticized as being sexist? Well, okay, but there's also some liberatory material there that's really, really important for the context. So we have to, hold all these things, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so I think the same. But with Elizabeth, however, there's a certain beholdenness that never latched on to me growing up of the canon. Okay. And the sacredness of the canon. The
canon
was always kind of like falling out of the text, right? Because my church was the inerrant scripture was the 1928 prayer book, which I never understood.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, wait, okay, that makes sense.
The newer versions, like the zebra, and I don't know what they were called, and they'd have them in the back of the church, and they, we weren't supposed to look at them, so I'd sneak back there and take them home. And I could never understand, what was so radical about these things, but anyway, because they weren't. So the same with the canon. So Elizabeth's view, and many others, ultimately, that this is symbolic.
Right.
Right. It's Rome. It's not, and for me, when I also went that way, mostly in my dissertation. And then it was afterwards that I thought, no, this is the face of a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, you can queer it, but still it's violent against bodies, and whatever
kinds of bodies doing particular kinds of things. Yes.
Yeah. And so I had done a liberation hermeneutical Marxist literary reading of the Apocalypse in my dissertation, and I focused the chapter on Pergamum. And that was my main text, but I kind of moved from there because I discovered fantasy theory.
Yes. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Please. And the fantastic. And so, how to understand apocalyptic literature. I think, fantasy, horror, I think it's a real hybrid mix of things. And, Sarah Emanuel has, that also horror and humor. There's a lot there that we can never know because we're, 21st century reader.
Removed.
Yeah. And I really don't know if John even knew whoever John was.
Right.
So, but to look at those genres, I think in film, in art, literature, science fiction, whatever, really helps give us more of a window into our own world, even though we can't nail down John's world. And I felt like in my book session many years ago was, people really wanted to know John's shoe size. I just, and if you watch, Dean Jones as I show a clip from that. It's an evangelical play. He's an A-list actor from the Disney Love Bug films.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that guy. And he plays John of Patmos, and he's reciting, and the play is him talking to his, he's not really reciting the apocalypse, but he's talking to his amanuensis.
Okay. The person who's writing for him.
Yeah. And thanks to Candida Moss, we know that was a slave. So, that doesn't come out in the film. But, he's a funny old guy, cantankerous, and he welcomes visitors in his cave in Patmos. Anyway, I think there's a sense we want to know, right? And I think it's even more in historical Jesus scholarship. And so I have a book coming out next year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do some self-promotion. It's called, with Cascade, it's called The Actual Jesus.
Oh, you don't have, it's not pre-order state yet, right?
No.
I was going to say I could pull up an image, but it's not there yet. Okay. The Actual Jesus? Oh, do tell, Tina. What are you going to finally reveal for all of us, right?
The big reveal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So I look at historical Jesus studies because, that's how I got into New Testament studies was, the quest, all the quests, plural, multiple, especially the new quest, because the Boltzmannian strain through my college years, especially, and Kazema, Bornkamm, Kazema, et al. And they're still important to me. I think ultimately Bultmann and Jameson, and just the wider circle of literary folks. So I critique historical critical studies because what you're kind of told, well, at least what I heard in my first year in college, was historical critical method, archaeology, and form criticism and source criticism and word studies, and you're eventually going to get closer and closer and closer to the capital T truth.
Right.
And I thought, oh no, there's so much more out here, right? What these texts do to and you do this work. What these texts do to people, especially to women and LGBTQ, and so, and we're seeing that even more now. Lately with the election, we got to hold on and be ready for that. So I think, well, they're new quest, and I like the material. I read it and that's really good, but I can't go there.
You get excited about it, or you can't.
Yeah, but it doesn't really hold at the end.
Because there's a certainty to it.
Yeah, there's a certainty. And I think dwelling in the uncertainty and in the questions, not the answers,
is more interesting.
Yeah. I'm never going to find the answer.
Right.
I mean, the ones who took over Southern Baptist Theological Seminary claim, of course, that they have the answer. And biblical womanhood and biblical manhood is part of that equation. So, I think that's where activism is standing against that and resisting it. It's a resistance movement, right?
I agree.
And I'll tell you where I didn't learn that so much from the Baptists. I learned it from the disciples of Christ. And, of course, William Barber's also disciples. So it just kind of comes around. In high school, because there wasn't a youth group. I think we had 1 year youth group, and then I was the only one left in the youth
Okay, yeah.
I graduated. So I went down the street to the Disciples Church.
Okay.
And they had summer camps, and they had a trip, Bread for the World trip to DC and New York. We met with Art Simon. Anyway, that whole social justice network, and that was connected with anti-racism stuff in the 70s, and also there was a biblical scholar at camp. He was a disciples minister in Eastern North Carolina, but he had a PhD in Hebrew Bible from Duke. And I remember he did one of the sessions at camp where he had a copy of the Hebrew Bible open to the Song of Songs.
Okay.
And he did a whole thing on this. This is not about Jesus and the church.
Good for him.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. This is interesting. But the other piece of that was Barton College used to be called Atlantic Christian College in Wilson, North Carolina.
Okay.
Outside of Raleigh. And they had a really rich religion department and the camp counselors came from there. They were religious majors, right? And they're all, I think, disciples ministers now, many years later. But they were very much into Thomas Merton. And they did pilgrimages every year to Gethsemane and the Sisters of Loretta. There weren't many women religion majors back then, I guess. There weren't any camp counselors anyway. But so when I lived in Louisville, it was very near there, even though Merton was very long gone. But reading Merton in high school as part of the disciple thing got me interested in the study of religion. Yeah.
Okay.
So
and very interesting elements of these different groups that are, I guess I really wasn't conscious of the social justice element of the disciples of Christ. So
they have a continuum also, like
sure. Okay.
The more conservative and then the more progressive.
Yeah.
So
Love it. Can we talk about? I have observed. I haven't ever gone to listen to any of your podcasts. I'm sorry, but I have noted, or maybe I listened to one, and it was one of your early ones. It's been a while. But I have always noted your passion for actual good teaching, not just being a lecturer, but being good at making sure that the information is actually causing some form of transformation for students. That's been my observation of you, at least from afar. Is that a fair characterization or fair thing to say is of interest to you?
Yeah, I think
Educator.
my interest in pedagogies, Freire, which I discovered Freire, I guess, in graduate school. I became interested through, we had one of the rare, I think it was a May 2-week session on teaching, and graduate programs at the time did not have that.
No, yeah, it was just beginning when I was in graduate school, a decade later or so. Yeah.
And I was teaching part-time at Bellarmine College. I think it's a university now too, and University of Louisville, and then later a little bit at Center College. And so this course got me interested in, it was an excellent course taught by one of the education professors, and his religious education professors, and his mantra was nothing never happens. And so John Hendricks was his name, just very creative. I remember him coming in, those sled desk, he called them, with the, you sit and you got the thing that.
Yes. Okay. Sled desk. Okay. Yeah.
Just move them out of the way, move them to a circle. You don't sit in rows. You don't, and we did all kinds of creative stuff in there. He just kind of really broke the traditional thinking on teaching, even though a lot of folks were like, I don't know about this, because it's a lot more work.
It is a lot more work. It's a more emotional work. But it's worth it, right?
Yeah, it's risky too. So thank you. Self-promotion here.
Yes, please.
I want to say,
yes.
Dr. Lucia Hol is an alumna of Agnes Scott.
Gotcha. Nice.
Studies major, and is at Skidmore College this year, visiting scholar at Brown University. So this is when the student far surpasses the professor.
It must be so exciting. So
as a co-host. I started this when my college, this was 7 years ago, March, this month.
Yeah.
When my college came up with a new curriculum. I was on curriculum committee.
Okay.
And there was it was just bullet train. There was no stopping it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and it's intense to try to do that, right?
And it was about global plus leadership in ways that were very corporate and neoliberal capitalist models of higher education.
Right.
And no one wanted to do the homework on the theory. So and I'm reading all this pedagogical theory because it informs my teaching.
Yes, it's important to you, right?
Yeah, because I'm doing theory practice learning with my students in practicums and internships. And so anyway, and so I think I had a pedagogical breakdown to a friend who was in the worked in the tech at my college, and said, who's kind of a film artist on this, he's long retired now, and said, I want to do a podcast. And so I picked the one kind of famous pedagogy person that I sort of knew, who was Ira Shore. Empowering education, and when students have power, and just a phenomenal, he's an English professor. And up in New York, and
I'm not familiar. I'm making notes. I'm like Irish Shore.
Irish Shore, you have to read Irish Shore. And he's probably the main Freirean.
Gotcha.
He didn't translate, but he
applying.
Yeah, application.
What does it look like in this, practically speaking?
Yeah. And so he very graciously agreed to be interviewed, and we, didn't know. I had no idea what I was doing. It was cathartic. It just, I had somebody to talk to.
Right. Yeah.
Because, we had been doing for many years at that point in our department, a democratic departmental method, pushed by my students to do Freirean classroom models. We were challenged. Well, we do class agreements or set ground rules for classes, which is a pretty, moderate thing to do, not radical. Right. But why don't we have them for the department?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I never thought of that. That person's a UCC minister in California now. Anyway,
Nice.
So about to do a DMin, actually, anyway, years later.
Yeah.
And this was in the mid-90s. And so at some of our department retreats, we formed a departmental vision statement that we revise periodically. It's a feminist utopian vision of, we strive to be inclusive. And we were the first at the college to have a sexual harassment statement.
Okay.
That got us in trouble with the then president and the dean. And
having that in a statement about it got you in trouble.
And it was nothing. I mean, it was a lot, but it was we're going to be mutually accountable and transparent to each other, with each other in this department, and work together to create learning communities that are bold.
I'm sorry, I might start crying. That is,
well,
I'm so sorry.
So, there's a book by Paulo Freire and Ira Shore, a talking book. That's the place to start.
Okay.
I think that they did at the Highlander Center.
Okay.
The place where all the folks went for training for the citizenship schools. Septima Clark was on staff there with Miles Horton. Anyway, Martin Luther King Jr. And others went there to get training.
Okay.
Rosa Parks did her training there before the bus boycott.
Oh, geez. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Serious
Bernice
history.
Robinson, it's an amazing history there. Still going on, still radical. And and so their talking book I had with me as sort of an amulet because I had a little tenure problem over some things, some activism. And so my dear colleague for my first 10 years at Agnes, Dr. John Cary, who had been at Florida State for 26 years, started the Peace and Justice program there, and then was president at Warren Wilson College, and then came to Agnes Scott in an endowed chair. And we came at the same time. So he was staring at the floor. I could tell he was furious. Having been a college president, he knew in his gut what we were doing. It was so amazing. And our students were and are amazing. And they told us we had to do away with the statement. And I'm like, I had my hand on that book. It's like, okay, I am not insane. These people are insane. And so I think they thought we were indoctrinating students or something. It was just
that accountability thing is just, you got to do it.
Yeah. And so and we had that sexual harassment statement in there for a reason, because of things that were happening on campus that now get addressed through a mandatory workshop on Title IX that does, not really addressing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we were trying to really, be intentional in our creation of community. And so, we invited the dean to come to one of our department meetings, and the students just kind of laid it out. So
what did they say? Like, how did that go down?
One African-American major who's now a high school principal said, because of this department, we didn't have maybe 10% African-American students at the time. Now we have, it's 46, 50%. I mean, it's really, but of African-American, but even more, we're not majority white anymore, thank goodness. And so back then we were, and said, this is the only space I've found where I can have voice. I mean, I'm like, it shocked all of us. We didn't know that was, that was what happened. That was the intent, but as white people fighting racism, you never know.
Right. You didn't know what the perception from the students' experience.
And as Marianne Tolbert, I think she said, I told her she said, and she said she didn't remember it, but we protest our pain, not our privilege. And so anyway, so
I like that. I want to sit with that for a second.
Yeah. So we were able to keep the statement, and I'm revising it now for our department meeting next Tuesday that a student will chair.
Wow.
Yeah. So for a while we rotated chairing, And there was one student, this was about 10 years ago, came to me and said, because students do such a better job. Just be honest, because faculty are like busy and they come in there kind of half prepared. Students prepare. There's an agenda. We're going to
stuff you want to do.
Yeah, you're talking too much. We're going to do mutual invitation. I mean, Lucia did that at chairing a meeting one time.
What does that mean?
On some male faculty in a minute. I was like, oh yeah.
Mutual invitation? What does that mean?
Yeah, so instead of the professor or the chair calling on people, say, Jennifer, we haven't heard from you, or you seem like you want to get in. Why don't you talk? And then you'll say, oh, well, Sam, so we mutually invite each other. And that is so hard to do in a college classroom. We agree to do it, and then I'm constantly having to say, don't look at me.
Right, right. You all are in this together. Yeah.
It's so hard. We are so trained at the power. Right. I mean, the power balance is real.
It is.
But it's just so hard to undo those kind of things. So, so we presented, two students and I presented at AAR in the teaching religion section one year.
Okay.
And as we were practicing with other majors in the department, I was playing devil's advocate. And I said, well, we don't need to do this. Traditional education's just fine. You can go and, have a lecture here and take notes and see the PowerPoint, and you're learning a lot, and the professor's the expert. And finally, a student who was an older, well, almost my age student at the time, returned to college student, said, well, what would we be doing if we weren't doing this? And we all froze. It was like, oh, yeah, it would be okay. We'd be doing, the traditional education is okay. It's been, 100 and so years of the college, and it's traditional. And then anyway, so we presented at AAR, and afterwards a professor came up to us from Minnesota, College of St. Benedict, St. John's University, and said, do you consult?
Oh my goodness.
And I almost fell out. So Dan McLennan, who went to Harvard Div after that, but we went up there on a spring break and consulted.
I love it.
With their department about, what we were doing they had some kind of Lilly grant, I think. Anyway, we presented again at AACNU, the American Association of Colleges and Universities.
Oh, okay.
There was and the dean, when I went to see before I did the proposal, because I didn't know what chance we would have if there was money, because it's quite expensive to go to register for that organization, and they were in Atlanta that year, and so she said to me, "Well, undergraduates do not present at AACNU." So I went running up the stairs to send that proposal in. We got in. Okay, there's this great round table of folks from Kenyon, from Georgia Tech, from all over the country. And we're having this great discussion. I think 3 students, and then there was a contingent person for the year, Kristen Sessions, who's now at Simpson College in Iowa. Anyway, and the man from the professor from Georgia Tech asked us afterwards, do you consult? At biomedical engineering.
Oh, wow.
So we went across town and consulted with them. It was a fantastic discussion. And then that was like a week before the pandemic hit. We had good plans to
kind of take that on the road.
Yeah, so that kind of, to do things together. Right. They were very different, had graduate students, and so it's been a really fun journey. Like, we're learning all the time, and we're never going to get there. But what would we be doing if we weren't doing this, right? And then I see what it does with students getting into grad schools and jobs and other things. So
how it, in a positive way, how it helps them. Leg up. Can you say more about that? What do you mean? What is it you see that it has that they're benefiting from, or that helps them?
Well, I mean, they already have voice. But they get shut down a lot and surveilled, as things do on college campuses. Especially lately, you'll see it with the Gaza war debate and the pro-Palestinian protest and things being shut down.
Right.
So there's just a lot of fear of having any real scholarly discussion about it. So anyway, so there's, learning how to navigate those things. And also, there's still, as we learned yesterday, what bell hooks would call the heteropatriarchal, misogynistic system and racialized system. And we've got to learn how to confront that and create something new. So so one way I want to do a shout out to my Atlanta group, the Atlanta Womanist Feminist Biblical Studies Research Consortium.
Oh,
yeah.
Didn't know there was such a thing.
Yes, we've been meeting for maybe 30 years. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, we used to meet monthly, now not as often, and the membership kind of comes and goes given who moves and who comes in. And I think right now I'm the only one in undergraduate teaching. They're all at seminaries, but we have a whole slew of seminaries here, right, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so that our consortium is AKA the Bible Bitches.
Okay, so I have seen pictures of this. I've seen you all sharing your gathering. I didn't know it's been on for 30 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's a very serious drink wine and
Yeah.
So and
Angela Parker is in there. It has been right. She's recently moved to Atlanta. And Mitzi Smith. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We had Carol Newsom's retirement brunch. We had Angela's tenure party where Susan Hyland provided the tiara.
Nice.
And I brought her a magic wand.
Lovely.
To have at the patriarchy.
Yes.
so it's fun and supportive. We've had Gallo Day was probably one of the founders with Carol and so
Cheryl Kirk Duggan is in
no
she is not
Atlanta based folks.
Oh right she's in North Carolina. So a lot of influences, not just the feminist womanist community, but when I was in seminary, I went to seminary with Randall Bailey. He was ahead of me. Like I was a first year and he was a senior. Okay.
I guess it's hard to remember that far back.
I know. Yeah.
And we were in a Cone, Bart, and Tillich seminars.
Okay. That was a heavy semester. Yep.
Yeah. And we were assigned to present certain things, and I had to present on Cone, something in Cone's God of the Oppressed. And Cone was coming to campus, which was great. I worked for the Candler. We had a newspaper and I got to interview him. So that was really a thrill. Anyhow, I remember Randall saying, "Oh, no white woman can be talking about Cone." And so we got into it for an hour. Nice. And the rest of the class and the professor were like, "Oh." And so we have been close friends ever since. Because I said, well, then if I don't, then what?
Exactly.
Or not. And, anyhow.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that little story. Because I like him a lot. I like Randall Bailey a lot. And
this is another shout out for the future, which is Cheryl Kirk Dugan and I are co-editing a volume of his articles and responses to his work. More general responses.
Okay. Nice. I actually, What do you have a working title for that yet, or just?
Yeah, we got it from Kimberly Rusaw and and others who were first doing the volume that a couple of years ago at SBL. So it's Have Not Our Weary Feet. From the Black National Anthem, readings on race, sexuality, and power in conversation with Randall C. Bailey.
Lovely. That just makes my heart sing. Yeah.
And the other person I want to give a shout out for, because a very dear friend of mine who passed away recently from pancreatic cancer. He was the co-founder of the Gay Men's Issues group of the American Academy of Religion back before anyone was out. To go, and they had people who wouldn't go to the academic, very scholarly sessions. They had receptions and dinners where people would come, and this was pioneering work. And this is Dr. J. Michael Clark. He passed away just a few weeks ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And we co-wrote the article in Revelation in the Queer Bible Commentary. So Michael was scripture phobic, he said.
Can't blame him, right?
Yeah, can't blame him. Yeah. So we were the outlier in that book, in that volume. Because it was, trying, like I think many feminist scholars try to do, is, you got to make it so it's okay. And, has there's something you can latch on to that's hopeful, right?
Okay.
And we were saying, no, there's nothing.
It's like, wait, where's Tina going with this?
And so, so when it came time we were asked if we wanted to be part of the revised edition. We had a back and forth. Do we do it? Do we let it go?
Right.
We decided, no, we want to be naysayers.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was early on at a conference at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
After my first book, I had a very prominent feminist scholar whom I adore, but said to me at the session, well, don't you want your no to be yes? Don't you want to turn your no into yes on the apocalypse? And I said, no.
Why are you? Oh my goodness, that's interesting.
I don't want it to be. No, I say no.
Yeah.
So, which makes it difficult because in the upcoming session at SBL with just terrific work. It's so useful. It's way more useful than my stuff, because when you say no, what do you do with it? Especially if you're a believer or a pastor. I still think you can deal with it. However, so.
And the upcoming work you're referring to, we were chatting about before.
Of gender readings on the apocalypse. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the best work coming out. However, I'm like, I don't agree. It's okay though. I love the work. It's better in some ways. I wish I could go with that. It would make things a lot easier.
To be able to just be okay with it instead of
there's
resisting.
a message of hope here. And so I'm working on the New Jerusalem still. And I don't find it a liberating space, even if the tree of life is there, and that's the goddess, the ancient goddess snuck in. Snuck back in. Right. You don't find either. So
but you don't find it liberating. I don't either, but I'm curious what your reasons are.
Well, I've read and I've responded some to, the Green Bible stuff, and I teach religion and ecology. So that stuff is very useful. It's stuff I use in class.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Let's be honest. Okay.
I shut it down. So, I think it's a monoculture. I think I read it too literally, and Shusla Fiorenza always reminded me of that, of, the 144,000 purified males get in, and maybe others. It's unclear. It's a messy text. But it's a gated community. And outside, it's far more interesting. That's where the woman clothed with the sun is, with Gaia, the earth goddess that swallows the dragon flood.
And Yeah, and I always think about
the abyss. The abyss
straight.
is there.
Yeah, and it just
Yeah.
feels too almost too clean.
It is
Boring,
clean.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's not
Yeah.
very cultural. It's not very interesting. It's not very pretty. Like, I don't find that all that attractive.
You
Anyway,
got a tree, a river.
right.
Yeah, it's
That's
kind
a
of
piece of
boring.
right.
Right. But then, so I'm investigating that some more using space theory, Edward Sojourn, Henri Lefebvre, doing a reading with that Coppola, new Coppola film, Megalopolis, and Lefebvre's The Right to the City. And anyway, and Jameson has a new book because unfortunately, he died last month and at age 90. But we were able to bring him to SBL in the early 90s.
Okay.
Ideological criticism group that Gottwald and Norman Gottwald and others, David Jobling, and Jameson did the keynote.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
On allegory and dialectics or something that it just went completely over my head. But when we were talking to him, we were kind of the chaperones or whatever, liaisons. And he was just
lovely,
normal, lovely person.
Yes. I got to meet him once. I had dinner with him once.
Wow.
With Roland Bohr and just it's like, what a lovely human being.
Yeah. And theory is hard. And Paulo Freire, to go back to Freire, said that theory is important. It's important to do that hard work because that's where you really start to find things and think more deeply. So
understand, put some things together, make some connections. Yep. Thank you for that plug of theory, because that's it is lacking. It is an important element, I think, that many people don't really know is an important element. Yeah.
And this semester of religion and ecology, I have students doing practicums and with a group called Trellis Horticultural Therapy Alliance. And one of the places is Metro Transitional Center. They have Trellis has a part-time gardener there with the women felons in this transitional center. And so they have to think theory as they're digging sweet potatoes in this garden next to Cop City.
Wow.
So you hear the freight train, you see the men's prison on one side, the juvenile prison across the street, and you hear the gunshots from Cop City.
Wow.
And the landfill covered with kudzu that's probably leaking methane gas and other toxic chemicals. And you're there in this give back garden, it's called, because the state of Georgia won't let them keep the food. And it's all this stuff at once, right? You've got the theory to support it. And that is being supported by the Wabash Center grant. So it's public engagement and social justice grant. So shout out to the Wabash Center.
Yes. I love it. You're doing such amazing things.
Well, I think my students do. And the community partners I work with are I couldn't do it without them. So
it's encouraging. It's encouraging to hear you. Inspiring. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And
I think I think this is a good time to wrap things up. Was there anything else? So I'm going to show I want to show it again because your Nothing Never Happens podcast. You've been doing this for many years now. I imagine you have quite a few episodes. So for people who are into that,
it's about teaching. Activist education, but we do pedagogy of the oppressed. We also do theater of the oppressed.
Yes,
the use of embodied learning in the classroom, and
it's very powerful.
Well, I'm learning so much. We just interviewed and we're going to do a dual release soon with the Institute for the Critical Study of Zionism. So we should get some response from them.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
Nice.
So we have no money and no real skill. Me speaking for me, not my co-host. And people talk to us, and we learn. I can't imagine teaching without it now.
That's
So,
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for coming
you.
to talk with me this hour or so and taking time out of your day. And I know that you give a lot to be an educator. So I appreciate your time and your energy here today.
Well, this is great. I hope to be able to come to your book session.
Oh, thank you. It's Monday night. I don't know. It's a tough, it's, I'm just really grateful that they made room, gave gender, sexuality in the Bible is pairing up with feminist studies and religion to support it. So,
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to kick you out here for just a minute.
Okay. All right. Jennifer.
Yeah. And thank you all for being here. I did not pay any attention to the chat today. I was trying to, and then I was just so enjoying talking with Tina. So I hope you all didn't mind. And I saw a few things, and I should have put some of your comments in, but I didn't. Sorry about that. So I hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Tina Pippin. Rather inspiring, impressive person. Thank you for being here. Thanks for those of you who are here live, who wanted to be and were able to be here live. Thanks for chatting. It just adds a nice layer to things to see you all enjoying each other and chatting amongst yourselves. I am grateful for all the ways you support the work I'm doing, and grateful that I have a few people in my who are members now of my channel. It just is it's lovely. Thank you for all the ways, all the things. I will be back next week, actually interviewing Matt Monger, one of the Diablo critics. He's going to be joining me to talk about the work he's actually currently doing, which is looking into how some of the matriarchs of the Bible got their names. I'm not entirely sure actually what it is he's going to come talk to us about. So I'm looking forward to talking with him because he's such a lovely human being. And so that will be next Thursday. I think that's it for now. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you all, and be kind to yourselves. Those of you who are having a hard week because of recent political developments. Be kind to yourselves and each other. See you next time.